Islamabad's demands unrealistic and unreasonable. Addressing a gathering in Kabul, Muttaki confirmed that the Afghan delegation had returned home after the latest round of negotiation in Turkey that ended without progress. Now the important thing is, it is the first time that Muttaki has spoken like that and called up the bluff of Pakistan. I am going to play out 4 important bites. 2 important guests are going to be with me. I am going to be joined by Ambassador Veena Sikri and Professor Swaran Singh of JNU. We will play 4 bites, 2 minutes each, in which Muttaki exposes Pakistan. So in a strongly worded address, Muttaki said tension between the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan and certain military circles within Pakistan have risen due to Islamabad's repeated breaches of Afghan sovereignty.
Let me move on to another topic, brothers. Recently, tensions arose between the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan and some military circle within the government of Pakistan, as you all have witnessed. As we have said it before, we adopted a balanced foreign policy precisely because Afghanistan has emerged from decades of war and turmoil. Now, there is a great opportunity for us to establish good relations with all our neighbors, to have strong ties with regional countries, and to use Afghanistan's geographical position for trade, connectivity, transit and movement. This is the path we chose. However, over the past 4 years, at various times, the government of Pakistan has committed repeated violations. Afghanistan's airspace and sovereignty were breached. Afghan civilians, shops and markets were bombed. Ultimately, the situation reached a point where even the airspace of Afghan capital was violated, leaving the Islamic Emirate with no choice but to respond. Following this, our friendly countries made contact, and under their mediation, negotiations began. The first round of talk took place in Qatar, and the last 2 rounds were held in Istanbul, Turkey. The delegation of Islamic Emirate attended these talks with genuine goodwill and sincerity, and with full authorization and guidance from the leadership. Unfortunately, however, no progress was achieved in these negotiations. The main reason for the lack of progress was that the Pakistani representatives made certain proposals and demands that were unrealistic and unreasonable. For example, they demanded that we guarantee no security incidents would occur in Pakistan. But how can we be responsible for Pakistan's internal security? Do we have peacekeeping forces there? Do we control the police or army of Pakistan? Is Pakistan a small province or district that another state can secure it? It is a large country, and ensuring its security is not the responsibility of another government. That is an illogical demand.
Muttaki alleged that the Daesh and ISIS cadres were being trained inside Pakistan to attack Afghanistan, and Kabul urged Islamabad to stop such actions. He said Pakistan at one point even suggested relocating Taliban Pakistan fighters into Afghanistan. An idea, Muttaki said, was an attempt to deliberately create chaos inside Afghanistan.
On the contrary, we told them that from your territory, Daesh or ISIS members are being trained and sent to carry attacks in Afghanistan. Stop them. For 4 years, aircrafts have been violating Afghanistan's airspace. Stop that as well. Yet they refuse to take responsibility for these acts. At one point, they even suggested that the Taliban Pakistan or TTP groups should be relocated into Afghanistan. Is Afghanistan insane enough to bring your troubles into its own home? One moment they accuse us of harboring the TTP, and the next day propose that Pakistan-based TTP groups be moved into Afghanistan. That is deliberately creating chaos and conflict, something totally unacceptable. Brothers, they claim that TTP fighters crossed the Durand line from Afghanistan and attacked inside Pakistan. But there are several questions that must be asked in response. Wasn't the entire Durand line fenced during the era of Republic and the US occupation? You built roads, checkpoints and the large bases behind the fence. From there up to Peshawar and Islamabad, there are tens of checkposts. So why can't you stop them? You have a large army, intelligence services, technology and cameras across the Durand line. If someone crosses all those barriers and all your fences and checkposts, how can you blame Afghanistan for it? If, as you claim, these fighters are inside your territory, why don't you control them? And if they cross back into Afghanistan, then we too have the right to question you. Why did you let them to enter our soil in first place? These are the kinds of arguments they refuse to accept in discussions.
So these are the first two bites. I'm going to play out two other bites subsequently, in which Muttaki exposes the other side of Pakistan. He says that you cannot be blaming us for your internal problems. Take care of your economy. On this, I'm joined by Ambassador Veena Sikri, former Indian diplomat, and Professor Swaran Singh, School of International Studies. Professor Singh, foremost, for Muttaki to come out like this and say this publicly, you are training ISIS, you are training Daesh, what is it telling us?
Thank you. I think it clearly is showcasing that Afghanistan feels being pushed to the wall. As their commerce minister has said, they are losing about $200 million every month on their trade, given that Pakistan has shut down at least the 5 major connecting points on the border, and the most of exports that Afghanistan does goes through land routes in Pakistan, through Pakistani ports. So in that sense, there is a sense of being pushed to the wall, which is making him come out in open. As far as Pakistan is concerned, they have their own reasons to be frustrated. You remember they had welcomed a return of Taliban in August of 2021, and the ISI's chief was the first to land in Kabul. And then since then, they have found that, they are not able to control Taliban-Pakistan, which of course goes back to 2007. But they thought that coming of Taliban would leash and help Pakistan to deal with that problem, which they have not been able to do. And more recently now, after Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi's India visit, Pakistan has built up this whole new hype of Taliban now being seen as proxy of India. And that's why the Tuesday car blast, Khwaja Asif was immediately, on riding his high horse of saying it is Taliban which is responsible for that blast in Islamabad. So I think it's a kind of raised tempers and frustrations on both sides, especially now that the 2 rounds of talks in Istanbul did not fructify, and I understand Turkish delegation is landing in Islamabad later this week. So I think it's fundamentally frustration, but I think in clear sense Afghanistan feels vulnerable to Pakistan, and Pakistan is inordinately, sort of more powerful in dealing with the Taliban. And of course, Taliban is exploring northern borders to have trade with Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan, but that's going to take time. So their excessive dependence as of now is on Pakistan, and Pakistan is taking advantage and squeezing them tight, expecting that they would take TTP cadres and that they will deal with them instead of Pakistan dealing with them. But if Pakistan can't hold their own house in order, as you mentioned in the second segment, we will discuss that. Taliban is itself too busy right now at home to deal with its own problems, both economic and political. Okay.
Ambassador Sikri, is it decoupling? Am I reading too much into it? I'm going to play out 2 more bites, 2 minutes each. But in the first bite, very clearly, ISIS being trained inside Pakistan. Second, why should we allow TTP campers to operate inside Afghanistan? And then for him to say, Pakistan has been unreasonable. So is this Taliban 2 different from Taliban 1?
Absolutely. Taliban 2 is completely different from Taliban 1. In fact, I read Foreign Minister Muttaqi's speech as reading the Riot Act to Pakistan. Do not expect any strategic depth for Pakistan in Afghanistan. Not at all. we are not going to be your fall guys. We are not going to let you use Afghanistan as a playground, and we are going to be our own people. I think this is a very good and strong message that Foreign Minister Muttaki is conveying, because he is not going to be a cat's paw for Pakistan. And he is saying so clearly in the foreign talks that they were in the talks moderated by Qatar and Turkey that have been held between Islamabad and Kabul. Islamabad thought that with Qatar and Turkey on their side, Afghanistan will be overcome, and that Afghanistan will give in very quickly, and Afghanistan will agree to whatever Pakistan is saying. But Afghanistan has shown that it is a much more strong, standing up, talking back, holding its own against Pakistan, and is going to continue to do this. I think this is a very significant message, because even with Qatar and Islamabad, Qatar and Turkey, both supporting Pakistan so keenly, Muttaki has held his own. And now he's telling his own people about that. Having given this message so loud and clear to his own people, he cannot go back on it. All these people are going to be in Islamabad again. They're going to try and persuade Pakistan, persuade Kabul. But Kabul is not going to listen. They're not going to be, the strategic there for Pakistan anymore. And I think this is very heartening for India, because we've seen how nervous it has made Pakistan. And Pakistan now, they're trying to frighten Kabul all the more, because with their own constitutional amendments and their own all-powerful army, they're thinking they'll intimidate,
Absolutely, ma'am.
Kabul.
Amir, that was just the starter. Let me play out two other bites, very important bites. Muttaki also said that the Pakistan should learn to take care of its own problems.
Nevertheless, throughout the negotiations, our delegation never once walked away to refuse to talk. The talks were abandoned by them. The proposals of the way out were rejected by them. And finally, our team returned home. Brothers, we again say, Afghanistan's soil will not be used against anyone. We respect the brotherly and Muslim people of Pakistan. We respect their scholars and their political leaders. We acknowledge that within the Pakistani government, there are many who desire peace, reconciliation and understanding. And we value that. Our goal is to bring them good, as a Muslim should wish well for another Muslim. But if certain circles and certain projects are being pushed against us, then Afghanistan also has the right to defend itself, and it will do so. Today, praise to be Allah, the entire Afghan nation stands united with us and will bravely defend its homeland. Brothers, Pakistan problems are not new. Don't you all know that the TTP has been active inside Pakistan for the past 25 years? Hasn't the Pakistani government itself announced that over the last 20 years, 70 to 80,000 of its people have died in these wars? Weren't there bombings in Pakistan? Weren't there drone strikes? Weren't there attacks in Islamabad, Karachi and Peshawar? Wasn't there an assassination attempt on President Musharraf? Didn't 300 soldiers fall into TTP captivity in Waziristan? All these issues are old. Even if we progress in one discussion, they bring up another issue. Has anyone ever seen a member of the BLA or the Baloch Liberation Army in Afghanistan? Yet now they also try to blame that on Afghanistan as well.
Muttaki's statement is important because it is for the first time the Taliban leadership has openly spoken against Pakistan. Not only they have spoken against Pakistan's army, but they have spoken about the flawed Pakistan's politics. Listen in.
Their main argument is this. They said that since the Islamic Emirate came to power in Afghanistan, attacks in Pakistan have increased. But if you link the rise of TTP attacks to Afghanistan, then what about the 2 wars you fought with India? Will you also blame those on Afghanistan? You had clashes with Iran too. Is that Afghanistan's fault? You imprisoned Imran Khan and his entire movement. Will you blame that on Afghanistan as well? You are fighting Tehreek-e-Labbaik now. Is that also Afghanistan's doing? Your economy is collapsing. Your currency is falling. You face numerous domestic problems. You will blame all of that on Afghanistan as well. In reality, Afghanistan opened transit routes for you, increased trade with you, extended a hand of goodwill. During your first government, our relations were constructive and mutually beneficial. Trade flourished and transit expanded. But if you cannot control your own internal situation and pursue your own agendas, Afghanistan should not be blamed for it. And brothers, how unfortunate it is that a country, an army which calls itself nuclear power, uses that power against refugees, expelling them from their homes, leaving their children out in the cold, filling prisons, blocking roads for travelers, patients and traders. A nuclear power is using strength against onions and tomatoes and shutting down the trade routes. What kind of logic is that?
Saran Singh, what an indictment. Professor Singh, what an indictment of the Pakistan politics.
Indeed, I think this is not just very strong words, but a detailed comment on Pakistan's internal turmoil, internal inability to deal with its economic woes or political instability. Comments on military. I mean, he goes to the extent of saying certain circles in Pakistani military. So in that sense, he's even distinguishing, saying there are people in Pakistan who still want peace with Afghanistan. So in that sense, in some sense, casting a wedge within the political elite in Pakistan. I think very strong and detailed comment, specifically talking about TTP, whether they should be coming to Afghanistan to create chaos, blaming Pakistan for failed two talks in Islamabad. I think gloves are off in that sense.
Yes.
From Muttaqi's side. This may have been partly triggered by
Professor Singh, Muttaki in this continuation, because his long bite also said, you guys fenced the entire Durand line during American occupation, and it is your job to ensure that these people don't cross over to Afghanistan, because you are the one who has fenced the line, and Afghanistan has never accepted the Durand line.
That's right. That is true. In fact, successive leaderships across, the last 3 to 4 decades have repeatedly shown their inability to accept Durand Line, which goes back to, I think, 1893 or so, when it was drawn by some imperial officer. And that really cuts Pashtuns in the middle. I mean, it's sociologically also, it's very, very arbitrary in that sense line. And that itself has created enormous problems of refugees on the side of Pakistan during the periods of turmoil, because they are same people on both sides of the border. And now to put a heavy fence, guarded border with checkpoints and so on, itself creates a certain I think a sense of anxiety within the Afghan society, particularly Pashtuns, and that is now clearly being seen as inability or failure of Pakistan to be able to manage its own affairs at home. And mention of Baloch Army, Baloch Liberation Army, and the Pakistan military surrendering, I think he mentioned 300.
The most important aspect, Ambassador Sikri, is that he was making fun of Pakistan. It's very rare that, you make fun of a neighboring country like that. One. And secondly, the important takeaway for me is, a lot of people would say that the Kandahar Shura is being controlled by the Quetta Shura. When the entire Taliban upsurge was there, when they were taking over Afghanistan from the Herat and other parts, the southern parts, do you think that this decoupling of the Shuras have also happened? Because Taliban also was pretty heterogeneous. You had a lot of people within the government who are directly affiliated with Islamabad rather than Kandahar and other parts?
I think that I like the sense of quiet confidence with which Foreign Minister Muttaki is speaking. He's not raising his voice. He's not, sounding like anything unusual, but he's speaking to a huge audience of key people. And he's really reinforcing the strength of the Akhundzada-led government, which is based in Kandahar. This Quetta Shura is no longer in the picture because these people are, the present Akhundzada-led government with Muttaki as the foreign minister is now displaying its own confidence. It's saying that we are very much able to manage our own affairs, and we know what is happening in Pakistan, and we need not be scared of it anymore. We can stand up to it. And I think that sense of quiet confidence that's coming, and he's mocking the Pakistan economy. Earlier on, I remember even when Foreign Minister Muttaki was in India, he had made a big point of saying that the Afghan currency has strengthened in the last year or so, last couple of years, because they're able to bring their economy onto some kind of a stronger position than before, even though, of course, it is still a very weak economy, but still it has strengthened compared to earlier. But he's mocking the Pakistan economy, which is very weak and a complete mess, and Pakistan is not improving their economy, they're not improving the condition of their people. Even he's mocking the Pakistan army, that what are you thinking? The TTP is a creation.
Ambassador Sikri, do you think that Pakistan actually crossed the Rubicon by bombing areas around Kabul? Do you think that snapped the camel's back?
Yes, I think so, because the Pakistan bombed Kabul the day Foreign Minister Muttaki arrived in India. And that was a huge kind of, it was an act of desperation by Pakistan, because they thought that Foreign Minister Muttaki will leave India immediately and rush back to Kabul because of the situation there. But Foreign Minister Muttaki did nothing of the kind. He went ahead with his program. He met everybody in Delhi. He went to Deoband. He received a rockstar welcome in Deoband. And he's shown his own strength. And I think really his visit to Deoband and the rockstar welcome he received has been a matter of great confidence. And remember, after his Deoband meeting, he came back to Delhi and had a second press conference where all the women journalists were invited. So it's showing that at every point he must have been in contact with his own leadership, leader Akhundzada, and would have got his guidance and approval. They're acting with supreme confidence. They've come into their own. They're willing to talk to all countries. They're happy to go to these talks, which are being mediated by Qatar and Turkey. But they're not falling into anybody's trap. They're not giving in to anything that Pakistan is putting pressure on them for. They're saying TTP is your problem. You are training ISIS for us against us in Afghanistan, but TTP is squarely your problem. If you can't look after them, don't blame us for it. And that's it. He's been very, very confident and clear in what he's saying. And I think Pakistan has to take note of the new Taliban. Taliban 2 is a different entity altogether. They're very confident in their leadership. They're united in their leadership, and they're going to remain so, I think. I don't think they're going to...
Professor Swaran Singh, do you think that Taliban has that sort of a leverage, keeping in mind the close relationship both China and Pakistan enjoy? That's number one. And do you think that India will have that sort of a space? Because after all, first, we don't put boots on ground. Second, our operations are limited till, limited to developmental projects, schools, hospitals. And number three, there is no presence of any other country except, I would say, in a way, Pakistan, China and Russia, and maybe parts of I would say some parts of Herat, which is under the Iranian influence.
That's true. I understand that India has relatively limited leverages and has often preferred to use Pakistan land routes to reach to Taliban. But India has also been exploring alternative routes through Iran, Chabahar Port, etc., which have not become fully functional as of now. But it's more, I think, strategic kind of projections that India can also bring to bear. India has definitely deep interests in Afghanistan, Afghanistan's stability and so on. But I agree with Ambassador in terms of showcasing of that very calm confidence and making detailed commentary with specific points is really indicating something much thought of in terms of what is it that Taliban is trying to convey to Pakistan in terms of whether it wants to really change the way it has been dealing with Pakistan so far. Is it sort of upping the ante in some sense? And in that way, I think not just in Russia, Iran, Pakistan, India, UAE and China, of course, would also be important players. Chinese have for a decade been desperately trying to expand CPEC, because limiting CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, to only Pakistan is not commercially viable. So they have been very keen to engage Taliban, and I think Taliban understands that China would be cautious in either encouraging or siding with Pakistan in pushing the Taliban in case there is a confrontation between the two sides. But this is definitely starting a new chapter, a very different kind of tone and tenor now, coming from Muttaqi's detailed commentary on Pakistan. Pakistan has definitely deep internal problems, and the most recent 27th Amendment is again going to embolden some sections in Pakistan Army. Now, whether that is going to create further trouble in bilateral relations with Afghanistan, I think Pakistan will have to be very cautious given its internal problems.
Oh, absolutely. I thank both of you for joining me, but because this piece of video was pretty telling. I know it has come in midst of Bihar elections and so many other things. For example, the blast that happened near Red Fort, again organized by Pakistan proxies, or the deep, Pakistani state. But then this is an important statement. Not only it exposes Pakistan, but it also tells us that in diplomacy, interests matter. And if they align, things can change. And look at the way our relationship with Taliban was and now where it stands. So this is all I had on Point today. I'll see you tomorrow in morning with a special coverage on Bihar starting from 6 a.m. Thank you and good night.